What's going on, guys? It's Joel here with as many reviews as possible, and today I'm going to answer some questions and tell you my first impressions about the Nike Metcon DSX Flyknit 2. Alright guys, so it is Saturday, December 2nd, and the DSX Flyknit 2s just dropped yesterday. You can get them at Nike.com. They're available in a few colors, just not the blackout color. The women's ones are also available. This is the metamorphic colorway, which is like the Oreo colorway. They sell for $150, which is $10 less. Now, I was actually going to do this video yesterday, but I figured I should spend a little bit of time in the shoe before I say anything about it. I did do a workout yesterday. I did do a little bit of lifting, but I'm gonna get back to that later. Let's just start with the way that the DSX Flyknit looks, and I have to say that this is quite possibly the best looking training shoe there is and probably has ever been created. This is an amazing looking shoe. Let's take a look at the upper, which has a redesigned Flyknit. Now with this new redesigned Flyknit, it has a lot more structure to it than the original one did, which I'm gonna pull out for you right here. So here's the original Oreo colorway, and there's a lot of give to the original Flyknit, and there's not as much with the Flyknit 2s. So pretty much the whole upper gets a full-on redesign. As you can see, there is no more tongue on the Flyknit 2s. It is a one-piece sock-like construction. Around the ankle collar, there is this area right here where these lines are, and there's a lot more structure in that area. There's just a lot more structure to the whole ankle rear area of the Flyknit 2s in general. It feels pretty damn secure, even more secure than the DSX Flyknit 1s did. Now, there is a much smaller TPU heel counter than on the DSX Flyknit 1s, but it actually feels a little bit more secure than it did on these shoes. There is this pad back here for the Achilles area, and it is pretty thick and substantial. It does a pretty good job of keeping your heel into place, but there is a tiny bit of heel slip. Oddly enough, there's a little bit more on my right shoe than there is on my left shoe, but I don't know what that might be. It just might be my foot. Coming around to the front of the shoe, like I said, there is more structure throughout this area of the Flyknit. The whole midfoot of the shoe feels a lot more secure. The toe area has some perforations in there to give you a little bit more ventilation as opposed to the mesh that was on the original one. Now, the outsoles are the exact same thing. It's the same sticky rubber, same tread pattern. Nothing has changed to the outsole of the DSX Flyknits. Another small detail that changed is the laces. The laces on the Flyknit 2 are a little bit beefier than they were on the original Flyknits, but these laces are pretty bad. I was just walking around yesterday and they came undone maybe like 6 or 7 times, and that was just from me walking around, so it was really annoying. Now, but let's get back to that ankle collar. There are 2 pull tabs, one at the rear and one at the front. From a looks standpoint, I actually like the way that they look. I think it adds a little bit more to the shoe. And another question that people were asking me is it a mid-cut? And no, I have to say it's not a mid-cut. There's a whole lot of room for your ankle right here. It still feels like a low-cut shoe, even though there is this area right here that is the elastic part for where your foot slides into the shoe, which does not sit completely flat with your foot when it's on, but it's not too big a deal. It doesn't feel like it's loose either. So sizing your DSX Flyknit 2s compared to the originals, I feel like the 2s run a little bit longer, but it's not a half size long. I have a 10 in both of these shoes, and there's a little bit of space in the front of the shoe on the Flyknit 2s. But it's better than my toes making contact with the front of the shoe, which is something you definitely do not want in a training shoe. Now, the toe box width is probably the same between both of them, though the upper on the 2 feels a little bit tighter than it did on the original one. The mid part of the shoe feels a little bit tighter as well. There is less space in the mid area of the shoe, but once again, I think it is from the upper being just much more fitted than the Flyknit ones. So the main takeaway of the Flyknit 2s when it comes to fit is that they just feel a lot more fitted and a lot more secure on your foot. And you're gonna notice that the most at the ankle collar area of the shoe. The sock-like design of the Flyknit 2s is, in my opinion, much better than it was on the original Flyknits. The whole upper elasticity is just a whole lot better, and it just feels a lot more secure on your foot. So if you guys seen my review of the original DSX Flyknits, then you would know that I was just not a huge fan of those shoes, and that was mainly due in part to the drop-in midsole on them. I thought that it was just too squishy, and I would not trust it for any kind of serious lifting. It was okay for bodyweight stuff, but even like light lifts, I didn't like lifting in the original DSX Flyknits. And I'm happy to say that the Flyknit 2s have a redesigned drop-in midsole. The way that it feels is kind of more rubbery. The texture is different. The material is for sure different. If I just kind of flip it back and forth, it's a little bit more like elastic and rubbery than on the original one, where it's kind of stiff and kind of like more like styrofoam than the DSX Flyknit 2 is kind of like rubbery one. Now the outsole grooves are different between all of the shoes. This is the Flyknit 1, this is the Metcon 3, and this is the Flyknit 2s. I don't think that is gonna really do a whole lot of difference between all the shoes as far as forefoot flexibility goes, but it's worth noting that it's there. But overall, I have to say that this midsole is extremely responsive, and it is closer feeling to the Nike Metcon 3's more stiff insole than the original DSX Flyknit's squishy insole. I would go as far to say that this is almost on par to the Nike Metcon 3's, maybe just a little bit less stiff than the Nike Metcon 3's. Now the drop on the DSX Flyknit 2's is 6mm. That has not changed. You're gonna notice that the most in the middle area of the shoe. The DSX Flyknit 1s were once again 6mm, and the Metcon 3s are 4mm in drop. Much better. I feel way more confident lifting pretty much anything in the Flyknit 2s than the original DSX Flyknits. There's a lot more structure to the upper, and the midsole does not compress. I did a few snatches yesterday. I actually maxed out my snatch, and I almost PR'd on my snatch yesterday at 230. Today I did some power cleans, and I had absolutely no issues cleaning in the Flyknit 2s. So a little bit earlier on the day, I posted something on my Instagram saying that if you guys had any questions about the Flyknit 2, post them there and I would try to answer them in this video. So let's go over some of that stuff. So the main question is, do they feel more stable than their predecessors when lifting heavy? And like I said before, they definitely do. They are around the same league as the just normal Metcon 3, which is much better, but might disappoint fans of the original DSX Flyknits. Another one is about the fit. Is the toe box wider than the original one? Like I said, it's not, but the upper is a little bit more fitted, so it feels like it is a little bit more narrow. Now here's one that's popping up left and right, and it is, do they squeak? And I think it's a little too early to say anything about that, but in my experience so far, they do not squeak, and I don't think they will because of the way that the midsole is redesigned. It feels like a lot more rubbery, and it doesn't kind of have that creaking sensation like the original ones did. Running shoe or nah? I'm gonna say nah. These are still training shoes, and if you wanted to do some running, I would definitely probably just stick with the original ones. Are they worth the upgrade? Yes. Are they lighter than the original ones? When I weighed the Flyknit 2s, they were actually heavier at 12.5 ounces, and the original ones I weighed in at 11 ounces for a men's size 10. So a little bit heavier than the originals. Stretching after use, I think that's a little bit too early to answer that question, but it feels pretty good right now. Lateral stability is much better in these shoes than the original DSX Flyknits. That was another thing that I didn't like about those shoes. If you ever made any kind of cuts, then you would feel like your foot was falling out of the shoe, whereas this shoe you feel pretty secure. So I'm not going to answer all the questions, but those are the main ones that popped up a lot. Are they more stable than the original ones? Yes, they most definitely are way more stable than the original ones. Do they squeak? Not yet, but that's still to be determined. I don't think that they're actually going to squeak because of the redesigned midsole. And how's the fit around the ankle area? It's not loose. It's definitely more structured in the whole upper of the shoe. And once again, sizing, they do run slightly longer than your DSX Flyknit ones. Now, once again guys, this is just the first impression video. I've only done a little bit of lifting. I've done only 1 watt in these shoes, but so far I actually really like these shoes, and that's surprising because I did not like the original DSX Flyknits. But so far so good. If you guys have any questions about the DSX Flyknit 2s, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And if you guys want constant updates, follow me on Instagram, as many reviews as possible. I post up all of my workouts there, and you are free to ask me pretty much any questions that you want on my Instagram. I'm really active there. As always guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching. The review of the DSX Flyknit 2s is coming ASAP.